Hey, Sam.
Hey Bev, how's it going?
Oh, it's going.
Yeah,
I mean, this is farm life, so it's like the best life.
it's the best life ever.
Wait, this isn't Instagram, even though I'm starting to feel like I live there sometimes. I've got to put my phone down more often.
Yeah, me too. I'm really bad about it, but I've been trying to be better about just going on just like a couple times a day, not like all dang day.
But it's so fun to like see everybody's reactions and comments
I
and
know.
seeing what everybody else is up to. I don't know. I'm a big fan.
It's addicting. I'm addicted. My husband calls me out on it. I'm trying to be better, but you know what? I think in the chicken community, like there's not a lot of us that live close by or anything, so that's how we connect with each other.
That is very true. Although I've been kind of surprised, like a lot of my new friends and neighbors, they've sort of like understood my whole chicken obsession. So I'm not feeling totally crazy, just a little crazy because I mean, I'm me. So
Touche.
I mean, I do just like randomly contact people on the internet and ask them if I can come help them take care of their goats or if they want to do a podcast with me. So
Yeah, it's fine. We all have our own level of creepy, weird craziness. That's all right. Some is like more acceptable than others.
that's true.
So I think we're acceptable.
Yeah, I think that me being an introvert is part of what makes it so difficult because sometimes I just can't tell whether I've crossed the line because I put it out there. So I was like, well, it can't be that bad since I was willing to put it out there. But no, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. I mean, I'm an introvert too, so I totally understand. And I feel as I get older, which is ridiculous because I'm only 30, but as I get older, I'm getting less and less of a filter to the point where I really got to be careful at work because while my workplace is pretty relaxed, yeah, some of the stuff that could come out of my mouth just shouldn't in those places.
Well, it's funny that you say that. I mean, I'm turning 34 soon. I haven't quite. I have definitely noticed that as I've gotten further into my 30s, it's true. I say more things just like the way that I see them, just because I think that like my bullshit meter is like full at this point. So I just say and kind of do what I want because I have found that I'm happier that way. I guess it's like living more authentically. I don't know. I mean, I'm still polite to everybody, but
Yes.
like for the most part, like if I don't want to do it or I don't like it, like I'm fine saying no. I'm fine saying I don't like something.
No, I'm totally with you there, 100%. And that's how I even am on my YouTube channel. It's like it's kind of funny. I just started going to the chiropractor and my chiropractor was like just asking me about like what I did in college and stuff like that. And my bachelor's degree is in theater. And he's like, "Oh, so do you do that now?" And I was like, "No, not really. Like just because I'm very busy with work and our farm." But I was like, "But YouTube and Instagram and now podcasting is a great outlet for me with my creative energy." And he's like, "Oh, okay, well, I'm going to look you up." And I'm like, "Oh, dear God." And I told him, I'm like, I'm going to tell you now, I do not have a filter on my YouTube. Like, I try to keep the swearing to a minimum, but sometimes it just kind of comes out. So he has been warned, but I see him again soon. So we'll have to see what his reaction was if he did find me on the internet.
Yeah, you'll have to see what he thinks of it. It's funny. I actually don't tell a ton of people that I have a blog or that I have sort of this like public facing side on the internet. I don't really know why I don't tell people. I guess because I'm not shy about it necessarily, but I feel sort of like I'm bragging sometimes. Like, come look at me
No,
and look at my pictures. But that's not really why I did it or why I started all of this stuff. I don't know.
no, I get the same feeling. I'm just now starting to get a little more comfortable with it because it does kind of have like a self-promotional or a self-importance feel to it. Even though that might not be how you intended it to start, but sometimes I feel like the longer you do this sort of thing and the more audience you build, you're going to get the haters. And I think I like preemptively think of what the haters will say, and it makes me like dim my own light in a way. And that might be some of the introverted type of personality traits from me coming out where I just don't want to really draw attention to myself. But I also have this public facing, persona or whatever you want to call it, because it's really just me being myself. But no, I totally get it.
Yeah, it's hard to explain. But I mean, I guess the one thing is like we both do have like our regular day job. So when people ask us what we do, like we don't have to say, "Oh, we're podcasters and YouTubers and
Yeah,
bloggers."
yeah. It sounds a little pretentious, like just a little. Like I think it's more normalized now, but it's still a little pretentious.
Oh yeah, and it totally is more normalized now. What was it? I heard a study was done and like there are a larger percentage of high schoolers that want to be a famous YouTuber when they grow up than like all of the regular professions combined. I wish I knew what study it was. I would totally reference it, but I heard it in passing, like on another podcast that I listened to, and it's like, you know what? I totally believe that because that's what my son wants to do. He wants to be a YouTuber when he grows up. I'm like, what are you going to YouTube about? He's like, video games. Yeah, that's like a huge genre. That's what people are doing.
Hmm. It's like you start practicing now. You might as well. Well, my stepdaughter is like really big into Musically. I don't know if you've heard of that app before. It's newer. It's kind of like Vine was, where it's like shorter clips, but it's more like lip syncing and stuff.
Oh, I have not heard of that.
But she's 10 and should not
Oh.
be on there. So I stay up on all these apps and stuff. I listen to Gary Vaynerchuk and he talks about all the upcoming, apps and things to watch and that sort of thing. So she speaks like way differently on that app. She's very like almost eloquent. So when we were at a restaurant a couple of weeks ago and she's like stumbling over her words talking to the waitress, and the waitress walks away and I look at her and I go, you speak way more eloquently on Musically. And she looks at me and her eyes get so big and she's like, how did you know about that? And I was like, because I'm a stepmom and I'm going to watch what you're doing and making sure like you're not getting kidnapped on the internet or anything. But it's like, I'm watching your stuff. But apparently mom is monitoring it. I'm not so sure about that, but she's only here every other weekend. There's only so much I can control about what she does. But that's a big one that I think, parents with young kids might want to watch out for. It's a new place where kids are getting on there and the parents don't know about it. So it's still cool for the kids, but maybe not necessarily safe. And B, if you're trying to be internet famous, it's a great place to start because it's an up and coming type app. It's like Snapchat and Vine had a baby.
Oh,
That's a good way to think about it.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll have to look into that. My son is 12 and he does have a cell phone, but he doesn't have any social media accounts or anything yet. And we haven't let him get on YouTube and make any videos yet. We've been a little nervous about it, which is kind of funny because of what I've been kind of doing with this blog thing is relatively public facing. And, like I don't hide their names. They've got like an introduction, on the blog and whatnot. So there's probably enough information out there if somebody really wanted to come and try to find us, they could. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm hoping that all of you guys are nicer than that, and you'll like give me a heads up first. But I was thinking to myself after we had that conversation, about how I just reached out to you, out of the blue, and I had reached out to that other blogger, and like of course she didn't want me to just come over and take care of her goats. The more I think about it, the more I realize how creepy that was. But my husband and I actually did do that, and now we're really good friends with a YouTuber because we reached out to them. So every time we go to visit Jared's parents, because we were flying in from Arizona, we would take a day trip up to Toledo to go visit with our friends. And there was this YouTuber that my husband started watching, and he had just kind of started. My husband's really into woodworking, so he's a woodworking YouTuber.
Hmm.
My husband reached out to him out of the blue and was like, "Hey, we're going to be in Toledo. We'd like to bring you some Arizona beers so that you can talk about them on your YouTube channel, like have new beers that you can't get." And he totally accepted and invited us over, and now we're like really good friends with him and his wife.
That is really freaking cool.
Yeah. And so I think that was why it like never occurred to me that it would be scary when I reached out to the other person because we had already like had this experience of like making new friends this way.
Well, and I think like some people you can just get a sense from them. Like I did from you when you were like, let's do a podcast. And like when I was at that Ale Fest that I mentioned in our last episode, I actually met one of my followers that I talk to all the time. Her name's Brittany, or at the Little White Coop. And it was so freaking cool because it was like, well, first of all, we told each other, like, if it's awkward and we don't get along, we'll just go our separate ways. So the fact that we could have that conversation before we even met, I knew we'd probably be fine.
Yeah.
But as soon as we saw each other, it was like, hey, and like best friends. And then she ended up like after the fest coming over to my brother's house and hanging out for like it was like from the end of the fest, which was like 4 until like almost 11 o'clock at night. So I would say we got along famously. And we're planning to hang out with each other again. So sometimes it does work out. You just never know.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess don't be shy to like say hi to us, I suppose.
Yeah, it's okay. You know, sometimes being creepy pays off.
Yeah. I mean, especially if you're going to bring somebody beer or drink beer with them. Is that the lesson here?
I think so. Beer brings people together.
Which reminds me, what are you drinking today, Sam?
So I am drinking a South African rosé called Lazy Lucy. And apparently that's named after their bulldog, whose name is Lucy, and she likes to be lazy. But it's delicious.
Oh, that sounds delicious. I do love rosés. They're nice and sweet.
Yes, it's got like the right acidity. Like I just ate dinner, so it's like the right acidity to cut through the pasta dinner that I just ate, but it feels like dessert at the same time because it's sweet enough. So it's a good after dinner delight.
Nice.
Dessert. That sounds weird. After dinner delight. That sounds oddly sexual. Sorry.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't Google that one.
No, probably not. Probably not a good thing to do. No. So, anyways, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking a beer called Money on My Rind by Forbidden Root, which is a brewery out of Illinois. I remember at our last conversation, that was where the beer festival was. So I went through my beer fridge and I was like, hey, I got this Illinois beer in here, so I should give this a try.
I feel like I saw that one there too.
Did you? Yeah, I mean it's got a really cool label on it. I'll put a link in the show notes to it so you can check it out if you haven't seen it before. But yeah, it's a beer that's brewed with like junipers and it's got coriander and
Ooh.
grapefruit and yeah, it's got all sorts of good stuff in it. This is a pretty good beer. I'm enjoying it. It's going down very easily. I mean, can't complain about that, right?
No, you can't. Not at all.
So has the chicken count changed since we last talked?
So, no, not really. I mean, we have some eggs in the incubator that, probably only have a couple days left. So that is exciting.
How many eggs do you have incubating?
Oh, so I got 6 from Brittany when I saw her at the Ale Fest because she has these beautiful silkies. So she gave me some hatching eggs, which was super exciting. And then I have, I think, 6 or 7 lavender Orpington rooster and Easter egger hen mix that are like the one that we've hatched already back in December. She came out like all black and just freaking huge. So I'm excited to see what these other ones end up looking like. I'm not sure how many of them will hatch, but we'll see. And I just threw like a random egg in there to see, like from somebody that I don't know who it came from because we have a lot of brown egg layers. So I threw it in there just to see if we get a surprise check because I know the roosters are like getting all of them. Like they're just doing what roosters do.
Oh yeah.
So that's probably fertile. So we'll see what happens.
Have you been like candling them and checking them for advancement, or are you just like putting them in the incubator and leaving them be?
So I try to only candle around like day 7 and day 10, and then right before they go into lockdown at So like day 17 sometimes. But even if they don't seem viable to me, I still leave them in there because sometimes the ones that I don't think are viable or my husband isn't sure about, they end up hatching. So unless they start like just smelling really bad to the point where I know it's not going to hatch, I just leave them in there.
Oh, okay, that's a good idea. I hadn't thought of that. We are going to hatch some chicks this year. I'm not gonna go buy any chicks this year, and it kind of sounds like if I need any fun and funky chickens, I should just come give you a visit, and I can come home with some chickens or some eggs.
Mhm. Definitely.
Because, collecting fun chickens is the first step to crazy chicken ladydom. We all start with our like
Oh.
hatchery chickens or whatever, we end up getting a
Mhm.
hold of first. And then it suddenly becomes like you've got to have every flavor in your coop eventually.
Oh, absolutely. I am like all about diversifying the flock. And one of the reasons I decided to order through My Pet Chicken was because I didn't have to buy like five of each.
Hmm.
Like I could just buy like one of each. And that was so magical to me. And some of the other places, like if you call them, they'll work with you. But I don't want to freaking call you. I don't really like talking on the phone to strangers. So I just want to do it on the internet. And because of that, they won my purchase of like 18 different chickens.
That is really nice that they let you do a mix bag. I was really impressed that I was able to do that too with my hatchery chickens that I got for my first ones. I thought I was gonna have to just like go to a big box, like farm store and pick up chickens there. But it
Hmm.
turns out the hatchery let me just get one or two of each breed. So that was what I did so that I could start with a flock that was kind of diverse. But the craziest chicken I was able to start with were my Easter eggers, which are, like a Araucana and Americana kind of cross. They don't necessarily show traits from one or the other, and some of their traits are kind of mixed up. So they're kind of in a breeder of all their own. They can lay I almost said orange eggs. Nobody lays orange eggs. What on earth am I thinking?
But I would love it if they did. I've seen pink eggs though. I've seen pink.
Oh, my Buff Orpingtons lay kind of a pinkish shade of egg.
Oh.
It's not like super pink, but yeah, like compared to the brown of all the other ones, I think they're a little pink looking. But yeah, they either do green or blue eggs, and I happen to have one that's sort of an olive egger and one that's like a nice bright blue. So I ended up with one of each
Oh.
out of just two Easter eggers. So
That's awesome.
yeah, so my egg basket is already pretty diverse and makes me happy, but I do want to start getting some of the more fun and funky ones. And those lavender Orpingtons look so pretty. And I love the Orpingtons' demeanor. They're so friendly compared to some of the other breeds of chicken that I've held.
Oh yeah. Well, we did have a little incident with our lavender Orpington rooster recently.
Ooh.
So I noticed that he kind of was eyeballing me when I go into the coop in the morning to open the door. And so last time that we had the kids, he was outside and I guess he like I'm not sure exactly how it happened because I wasn't out there with the kids and my husband, but like the rooster was kind of acting a little aggressive towards my stepdaughter. No, she's 10, she's taller, she's not like a toddler or anything. But my husband said, "Don't run away from him, just stand your ground," which turned out to be horrible advice because he ended up like rearing up and like kicking her with his spur.
Oh, yeah, I think they call that flogging.
Is that what it is? I didn't know it had a name. Well, she was flogged. And like it didn't really break skin or anything, but she was pretty upset, which was totally understandable. But I said, like, next time just like walk away or run or just turn around and punt him because
Yeah.
if he comes after me, I'll just kick him.
Yeah. I don't have any roosters yet, so I haven't had to do that. And all of my chickens have been pretty nice to me. I had one that flew and landed on me, but I don't think she was being aggressive. I think she just likes being in the high spot. So she flew up and landed on my shoulder, which really caught me off guard. And she hasn't done since then. So my reaction must have caused her to not want to do it anymore either. I'm always afraid they're going to get stuck in my hair. I see you guys take the pictures of them on your shoulders, and I wish that I could put them up there, but I have super like crazy long, thick hair and it gets tangled like big time. My hair is almost always like
Oh.
in a big rat's nest if it's not up in a bun because it just like the wind blows and it wraps around itself. So I'm afraid a chicken's gonna get stuck in it and I'm gonna be on the coop with like this chicken hanging from my matted hair.
You need to get some like bantam breeds so you can like have them pop on your shoulder because our bantams, we don't like clip their wings or anything, so they're able to fly a little bit and they'll come up on my shoulder sometimes, and it's super cute. Not as not as scary as a full-grown chicken.
Yeah, I mean, my Plymouth Barred rocks, they're huge. Oh my gosh. Like they look like dinosaurs compared to I've got some golden comets. You know,
Hmm.
they're kind of skinny. They lay a lot of eggs, so they're great egg layers, but they're like half the size of the Plymouth Barred rocks. And they're not even really small chickens by that standard. I mean, they're just normal sized chickens, but some of my chickens are like giants.
Those are the best though because they're just like they are like dinosaurs.
They are, and they're a lot of fun. I've been thinking of expanding and like getting a couple more coops, you know, like maybe ones that like you can move around the yard so that I can have different flocks of chickens. So I
Hmm.
can have, you know, like some silkies and bantams together because they're all small and adorable. And then I can have, you know, my hardcore egg layers, you know, safe in their run and their like coop that I've already got built here. And then as my ladies retire, I imagine that I'm going to move them onto the goat pasture. So they'll get to play with the goats. They'll keep all of the bug population and whatnot down and keep the mice out of you know, their housing and stuff. So I've got this nice, like, pretty utopian plan in my head, but I don't know how this is really going to play out.
That is actually a really good idea though, like to move them in with the goats once they retire. I like that.
I mean, these chickens have been our pets, so we're not gonna eat our egg laying chickens. I am planning to raise meat chickens this summer. My husband is placing bets that he doesn't think I'm going to be able to butcher them, but I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be able to because we built them a meat chicken tractor, so they won't go in with the other egg laying chickens. We're going to start with Cornish crosses because they look more like grocery store chickens, so mentally I can separate them. I thought I'd want to raise heritage meat chickens, but I also want to get the hang of it to make sure, you know, we can actually butcher them before investing more money in it.
Oh, totally. And like with those two, they grow so rapidly too that you're doing them a favor when you process them because they're just going to be miserable if you don't.
Well, and that was exactly what I told my husband. I was like, I have a feeling that we're going to do this first set of Cornish crosses and then we're not going to do them again just because of how fast they grow. I've heard
Hmm.
that they have trouble with their feet or like, you know, by the end they end up like not even being able to walk because they just grow so fast. So I'm sort of curious to see how the process plays out and see if you know, the reality is all of the things that I've read on the internet. Part of the process of all of this is sort of experiencing it all yourself. But the local person that I'm getting the Barnevelder eggs from for Aurora to hatch in the incubator, he also does heritage breed meat chickens. So I think our next rounds of meat chickens will end up going with that. But you know, if it turns out that I can't do the deed, I can hire somebody. Like there's Amish and Mennonites all over the place here. I'm sure that I can have one of them come over and pay them. They'll bring their sharp knives and they'll come and do all of it for me. And then I've got a freezer full
Yeah,
of chicken.
that's what I told my husband too. Like, because I like the ones that are our pets. I I just would not be able to. But I think I could do meat chickens, and if I couldn't do it myself, we have a processor like 2 miles down the road
Oh, perfect.
that we can take it to, and it's super affordable. So it's like I would probably just do that.
Yeah, because like part of the purpose of my whole like farm thing that I've got going on here was to provide like the best food that I could for my family. So I'm going to try to use that as like my marker for raising our first butchering animal.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch your journey unfold on the internet and listen to it in these conversations. It'll be interesting.
I did warn everybody that if they sent me to one of the farming supply stores while chick days were going on, I was going to be coming back with a bucket full of ducks. So,
Oh, you totally should. You totally should. They're so fun.
so how are you keeping your chicks? Like, how are you brooding this set of chicks? Are you going to do it the way that you started the first time, or have you changed anything? Like, what's your setup like?
Oh, so here's the deal with that. So Okay, so we started with our first like round of chicks back in last March, so almost a year ago. And what we do is we use one of those like big tubs that you store like Christmas decorations in.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what you even call them. That's what we use. We just use one of those and put shavings down, and we use a heat lamp when they're chicks because they're not bouncing into it yet.
Yeah.
And we just have like a simple water and simple food and just make sure to keep them cool. Like, I try because I get a lot of messages on Instagram and Facebook, like people wanting me to tell them, what do I need to do to get chicks? And I'm going to say this, and it might sound kind of bitchy, and maybe it's the rosé talking, but if you're going to get chicks, I'm sorry, but it's your responsibility to freaking Google it. Like, freaking figure it out. And then if you have questions beyond that, ask me. Don't ask me a general question of, what do I do if I want to have chicks? Like, that is so broad. Like, it drives me crazy. You have to take the responsibility to, like, put some work into it. Like, I can understand and appreciate like wanting to learn from somebody that really knows what they're doing. But like we talked about in the last episode about the goats, like you're doing your own research, but you also want to pick somebody's brain, and that's totally cool. Like that's what you should do.
Oh, yeah. And I have 3 books that I recommend for people who are just starting out, like on a chicken journey, whether they've like just gotten their chicks. You know, like you walked into the store and oops, you came home with a bucket full of baby chicks. Or, you know, like you have been planning this for forever and you were like me and you were dreaming about your chickens like 6 months before you actually got to go get them. I have 3 books I recommend. One of them is Fresh Eggs Daily by Lisa Steele. The other one is How to Speak Chicken by Melissa Coffey, which we talked about on episode 1. And the third one, it's called Backyard Flock. Of course, I don't have it in here, so I can't look at it. I'll link to it in the show notes. I apologize that I can't remember off the top of my head what it is. But it was another one of the great like chicken books that kind of gave you an idea of how to get started and like what your options are. But what's so cool about brooding baby chicks is that there are so many different ways you can do it. Like you can totally just have them in a cardboard box, which
Yeah.
was what I started with our first flock. I didn't have anything because I wanted to get them here and sort of see what happened. So they were all in like an Amazon box, I guess.
Hey, but that works. They don't know the difference.
They really don't. And then I ended up ordering what is really a rabbit pen off of Amazon. And once they were like 2.5 or 3 weeks old, they couldn't squeeze through the bars anymore. So then they moved from the box into this like open air pen that stayed up in our garage. And my husband and I would just we'd each pick up a side and then we'd walk it through the garage onto the grass. And they get sunshine and get to like peck around and sort of be pastured during the day where we could keep an eye on them. And then we'd move them back into the garage at night. And it worked really well for us. And it was I'll link to the post that I wrote all about how I got all set. But I'm actually going to do something new this year. I want to get those tubs like what you see at the big box farm stores with all baby chicks in them. I want one of those for while the baby chicks are tiny and needing to be in a brooder. Yeah, because I feel like it's like an easy way to keep them confined and keep it clean. It's almost the same thing as those tubs that you use. Man, I knew what those were called. Totes? Is that a good word for them?
Yeah. Totes. Totes is a good word. Yeah, you can get them from Walmart like for between $10 and $20, and then they last for forever. They're great.
Yeah. They're pretty sturdy. Yeah, I want to get these tubs, though, that they're stock water tanks. I want to get one of those because we're going to be cycling through, if we do 4 rounds of meat chickens, which is what I'm hoping to do, then we're going to be using it a lot. And I want to be able to like spray it out with, really hot water and like scrub it really good.
Yeah.
And I want it to have a dual purpose when I'm all done with it. Like I like to reuse everything that we've got here. So then it can eventually like, be the goat's water thing or a duck pond, and I just come back with my bucket of ducks.
Hey, yeah, that's good for a duck pond. Our ducks have like one of those like Walmart kiddie pools right now. That's in their enclosure. And then last summer we had like a really big kiddie pool type situation that wasn't plastic because their nails were popping anything plastic.
Ducks have nails?
They do, yeah.
I had no
And they
idea.
get very sharp.
Oh, see, I always thought their like webbed feet were all like soft and silky and
Well, their feet feel cool, but yeah, their nails are pretty sharp. So like when we brooded ducks, I originally started with the same toad idea, and then we took them out to the garage, and I had this like inflatable round pool, and then I put like a doggy gate all the way around it. Because that was super easy just to, my husband pick up one side, I pick, and he picks up the other, and we just carry it outside and dump all the shavings and everything because they're just notoriously messy. So it was easy to clean. But then they got bigger and their nails got longer and they started trying to crawl up the sides of the pool and they like started popping the rings. So that didn't work for too much longer than when they needed to transition into the duck house.
Do you keep the ducks and your chickens separate?
Yes. So ducks, as I've mentioned, are very messy, and I didn't want to have a duck pool around the chickens all the time for a few different reasons, because younger chickens don't really know what they're doing and they can drown easily.
Oh yeah.
Um, and then I could have kept out on the run, but it would have made their run just a disaster. So in the duck house, we also have a run area that we just put a couple layers of like rock down on, so that when they're messy and they poop everywhere, it's super easy for my husband or I to go in there and just spray off the rock. And it just runs, it filters through the rocks and kind of gets rid of the mess and the smell a lot easier than just it being dirt. So I just found it easier to keep them separate. I know some people keep them together and that's fine. I think it's just personal preference. And I didn't want my coop to smell like duck poo, because duck poo has a different smell than chicken poo.
Well, and sometimes chicken poo can be pretty stinky, although I think I finally kind of gotten my coop care under control. We'll do a whole nother podcast about coop care because we're totally talking about like chicks and housing, and we got a topic here, people.
We try to stay on topic. Sometimes it doesn't work.
That's so true.
Speaking of topic segue, before I forget, you guys, I found out which house I'm in for Harry Potter.
Oh, that's right.
Sometimes people break with sponsors. We're breaking to tell you what Sam's house is for Harry Potter.
So drum roll. I wish I could do a drum roll. I'm not talented like that.
Yeah, I could try, but I've had some wine and I probably just like spit all over my computer screen. So I am in the house of Slytherin.
Ooh.
I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. I didn't know what I would be, but I thought I wouldn't be that.
You're like, I'm not going to be the bad house. But like I said, Slytherin's not necessarily the bad house. They're just they're creative and they're very, what's the word I'm looking for? They're really good at getting what they want, if that makes any sense.
Which kind of makes sense with the whole goats thing that I've talked about before.
Yeah.
About how to frame things to make it sound like other people's ideas, because it works.
I need to get better at that because, sometimes I feel bad like my husband's just kind of along for the ride. Like he knows that whenever I ask for something that it's eventually going to live here because that's just the way that I am.
At least he knows.
He does. He knows. And he's a really good sport about it. But yeah, sometimes I wish that I'd, like say the idea and he'd just be like, yes, I totally want to do that too. So have you found that you've kind of had to nudge your husband into a few of the things, or is he like all in like 2 feet plugging his nose?
It kind of plugging his nose. Yeah. I think it kind of depends. I have a rule for myself that I haven't broken yet, which in a year is pretty good, that I will not bring anything home that he doesn't agree to. I have this thing where I just don't like it when people are mad at me. But I also don't really care what people think, so it's kind of a confusing dynamic. But I don't want him to be mad at me because I don't like confrontation very much. So I would rather talk through it with him and make sure he's at least okay with it.
Yeah.
But I usually get my way though, because he happy wife, happy life.
Yeah.
But I try to honor him by not just springing things on him. Like I'm trying really hard to get a baby, like a miniature pig,
Oh
like
yeah.
either like a mini potbelly or a Juliana or something like that. And he's so close to saying yes, but I won't do it until he's completely on board. Because, well, I don't want him to ever hold it over my head either. You know what I mean? Like, you wanted this and now it's awful. Blah. No, it's got to be. I try to make it a team decision.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm always worried though that if I waited for my husband to say yes to something, like I'll be 80 and then I'll get to have my donkey.
I predict you have a donkey within a year.
Ah,
That's my
you think
prediction.
so? Yeah, I think we might. I did tell him that I wanted to name it Hercules Mulligan because I heard that on the Hamilton soundtrack. I haven't seen it yet, but we listened to the Hamilton soundtrack in the car a lot 'cause kids absolutely love it, and we love it too. I don't know if you've heard it,
Oh, yeah.
but I was like, Hercules Mulligan is the greatest name for a donkey ever.
That is. I like that. See, now you have to have it happen. And that argument right there of naming the donkey that should be enough.
We'll see. I too try not to overwhelm him with all of my like crazy, spontaneous, enthusiastic. Like I just, because all of the ideas are in my head. So I've had time to, like adjust to them and get used to them. But so I've already talked to myself about it for like a month, before I spring it on him. But like to him, it like comes out of the
Hmm.
blue. He's like, "What do you mean you want a donkey?" I'm like, "Oh, well, they're really good for they're a good livestock guardian animal." And he's like, "What? No, they're not." And then I like, go through all the research and he's like, "Oh, okay, that now it makes more sense." But like when I first say it, he's like, "Where on earth did this come from?"
I generally start like I'm the same. Like I'll have the conversation in my own head for a while, but then to introduce it, just start showing them like him cute pictures of the animal on the internet, like baby goats or baby pigs or baby whatever to try to get him to be on board with it.
Yeah, because then he's like, "Oh, that is adorable. That totally should live here. You're right."
Yes, it's like subliminal messaging where it's just like, no, I'm just showing you because it's cute. And then he starts to get it in his head like me, and the gears start turning. It's a process.
It's an awesome process. So
Yes.
tell us about Cluckingham Palace.
Oh boy. Okay, so it's funny because when we got here, what is now the duck house was the chicken coop. And it looks like it was a pump house or something at one point, but the previous owners renovated it into a chicken coop. But then when I started, figuring out what chicken math was and that I had so many chickens and they all weren't going to fit in that one coop, we decided to convert what I like to call the murder shed into a chicken coop. So it was pretty much empty except for like a little like wood fire stove thing that was in there that we've since removed from there. It looked like somebody's tool shed basically, but it's like 18 by 16 or something like that. It's huge.
Yeah, I've seen the video that you posted, like of the inside of Cluckingham Palace. When you talked about why you don't need to heat your coop on YouTube, and I'll link to that in the show notes so that people can watch that if they haven't seen that video yet.
Yeah, it's huge. So we had to add the roosts. We took some of the roosts from the old one and put them in the new one. My husband built some new ones, and then we put nesting boxes in there from the old one into the new one. So we did a lot of moving around because ducks don't really need anything. They just lay on the ground and they're fine with that. So we did a lot of recycling. We put a big tire in there so they could do dust baths in there. And then we have like this chicken tractor within the coop. And that's how I transition like 8 to 10 week old chicks, depending on the temperature outside, from the brooder into the coop. So the top part, they just get used to having more space. And then when we move them to the bottom part, you have that whole seeing but not touching with the other chickens.
Yes, that's key to make sure that the other chickens don't attack them and kill them because chickens are surprisingly cannibalistic.
Oh, yes. And they're just rude. And even if they're staring at each other for like 4 weeks, when I like let them mingle at some point, they're still like chasing each other around. And they're just reestablishing the pecking order, but it's pretty traumatic to watch if you haven't given them enough time to stare at each other.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how the pecking order changes when we add chickens for the first time. I'm like I should have really called myself like the slowpoke homesteader because I do everything in such small like baby steps because I'm always afraid of screwing up a step. So I've been reading a lot about how to add new chickens to the flock, and I don't even have the fertilized egg yet.
But I mean, it sounds like you have the right approach though. Because it's serious like when you integrate a flock like that, and we've done it a couple times now, and it seems like the more you do it, the more you get the hang of it. Um, but the first time,
You can tell like when one of your head hens has murder in her eyes.
yes, you really can now. And they just show the new ones what's up. But generally, like that repecking thing goes away after a couple days, and then they're all pretty much fine. But yeah, it's very traumatic the first time you see it because, like, especially if you raise them from chicks, like those are your babies, and now they're being picked on, and you just want to, punt the other chickens across the coop. But yeah, so that's how Cluckingham Palace evolved. This summer, I want to like put in some better ventilation, like closer to the roof, because we had some humidity issues this winter.
We had that issue also in our coop, and our coop is kind of small and very tall, so I was not expecting that.
No, it was the most pain in the butt thing this winter was really just the humidity. And then we need to redo the run because we didn't do it very well the first time because we rushed it. And then we had a really bad windstorm like a couple weeks ago, and it like bent all the posts
Oh
inward
no.
because we didn't really set the posts long enough or deep enough. So that's okay because I just want to redo it and I want to make it bigger. So really it's fine. And then I also want to get some smaller coops or just build some smaller coops around the run so I can have like breeding pens, but their runs can be parallel so they can still see each other even when they're sectioned off into breeding pens.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Those are the plans in my head anyways that I've been talking to myself about that I need to like start communicating to my husband.
Yeah. You're like, and I need you to build this and get me the supplies for that. Yeah, we've got a lot
He's
of,
seriously so good. He's so good about it though.
which is awesome. My husband's really good about that too. I don't give him nearly enough credit. I told him that I wanted a chicken tractor for chickens, and I sent him a link to the one that I was kind of eyeballing, but I gave him a list of things that I didn't necessarily like about it and I would like changed, and he did it all.
Aw.
So I'm kind of hoping that by the time we release this podcast, I will have written the blog post about the chicken tractor. I was supposed to do it last week and I didn't get around to it. So I'm hoping sometime while I'm editing this, I'll get that post up because it's a really great meat chicken tractor. I'm pretty impressed with it. He did an awesome job.
I think I saw a picture of it. It looked pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be able to fit 20 chickens in it. So
Oh,
we'll see.
wow.
I'm a little nervous that it's too small for 20 chickens, but this is kind of one of those like learning things. What I can do is if it turns out that it's too small, I can repurpose the rabbit pen slash baby chick brooder into a second tractor and just move that around alongside it and then cover one side of it for weather. Yeah, I've always got like a backup plan. You gotta sort of think on your feet when you've got all these animals you gotta take care of.
Exactly. Speaking of chicken coops, I know you saw that article, well, because you sent it to me, from the Washington Post.
Oh yes. Oh Sam, do you have a $20,000 chicken coop?
No, I don't, because if I had $20,000, I would probably do something else with it. Sorry, chickens, but the title is The Silicon Valley's Elite's Latest Status Symbol, Chickens. They're pampered birds, wear diapers, and have personal chefs, but lay the finest eggs tech money can buy. Like, really? A personal chef for a chicken? I guess I'm kind of a personal chef for a chicken sometimes because I'll make them scrambled eggs or whatever, or oatmeal.
Yeah, and I make mine oatmeal every now and then,
Yeah.
but I mean, I don't know that I'd call that personal chefing for your chicken.
No, I'm not making them like organic salmon and watermelon for their delight in the afternoon. Like, come on.
Oh yeah, no, definitely not. It was funny. I'll link to that article in the show notes so that you, listener, can get a kick out of reading it also.
And what cracks me up too is like I can totally relate to some of this because I read through this article and like I told you before, I had mixed feelings about it. Like there were points where I was just angry, and then other points where I was like, I get it. Because I'm in the tech industry and like I stare at a computer for at least 8 hours Monday through Friday. And it's really nice to go home and just watch these animals run around the yard because it's mindless and they're funny. So it's like I get that, but $20,000 coop, like spending $400 on a heritage breed chicken, like, oh, okay. But you're not going to show the chicken. It's not like a show thing where you're going to go and win awards. You're literally just buying it because it's a $400 chicken.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of the thing that the article points out and kind of talks about. Like, we're crazy chicken ladies and we want to get to try all of the breeds eventually just because we like having all of the different flavors of chickens in the coop. It's kind of fun. I don't know that we necessarily see it as like a status symbol, like for each other. Maybe that's like my crazy chicken lady flag. You know, like you see how many chickens I have and all of the different colors, and you're like, yes, she's definitely one of us.
Yeah, and I just thought it's not like I want to bash anybody or anything, but it's definitely different culture between Silicon Valley and like us because to us we're like oddballs to most people. Like I don't know that an outsider would think of it as a status symbol looking in.
Well, we did both like originally come from the city, and we both do like work really professional jobs. So I guess we could sort of end up being bunched in on that if we did spend that kind of money on our chickens. But like my chicken coop is what I think is an old garden shed, and it was already here when we got here. We didn't make any changes to it. I've got a couple planned for this year, but the one thing that I did buy for my chickens that's kind of expensive is I backed a Kickstarter for an automatic coop door called
Mm,
Hatch,
hmm.
and the only reason why I did it was because it was a Kickstarter. I love people that have like cool ideas and are innovating. So that's anything like that's new and cool and like technological like that. That's how I usually end up with it. Is I backed somebody else's idea on Kickstarter. So yeah, it was called Hatch. It looked like a really cool idea. It's kind of similar to this automatic coupe door that they talk about in the article. If it wasn't nearly that expensive, I think I only gave them like $150. And it's automatic, which is cool because, you want to go out at night sometimes. I mean, like, we're ladies that farm and drink beer and wine and other adult beverages. And you don't want the raccoons getting in your hen house because
No.
you were, hanging out with your friends until midnight.
Right. No, I totally agree. And I definitely want an automatic door. And I've seen some like advertised in the Honey and Roo box and in some of the chicken magazines. They look pretty cool.
Yeah, they do look pretty cool.
But I want to know how I get this Leslie Citrion lady's job. She, in this article, it says she's one of Bay Area's most sought after chicken whisperers
Oh,
who does everything from selling upscale chickens and building coops to providing consultation to backyard bird owners. And her services cost $225 an hour. Like, what? You can expect to pay $4,000 to $5,000 for a setup with her. Like, what the hell? What am I doing wrong? Like,
we'll figure that out someday,
I need
Sam. I think
that.
if anybody can figure out how to make that a job out here, we could do it.
But I also feel like that if we moved out there, we could totally do it. But here, I feel like maybe I'm wrong. It's very country where I am at, and I'm assuming where you're at from what you told me is very country, and we're the pull ourselves up by our bootstrap folks and only ask for help for building things, but wouldn't pay somebody $225 an hour to come tell us how to take care of chickens.
Yeah, no, they would just use the Google like
Yes.
the rest of us do when we don't know something. Yeah, no, I don't like the idea of making fun of anybody either. But maybe this article sort of painted them in like a comedic what's what I'm looking for, like an exaggerated light. Yeah, it's like it might be sort of satire-ish, like a look at what city folk think taking care of chickens
Yeah.
is. But I know that that's not true either because you and I both interact with lots of people that have urban coops and they're very like down to earth and
Yeah.
just like us. So like you can't like paint people all in the same broad brushstroke. But I do
Right.
know that area of California is really wealthy. I grew up in California, so I am familiar with it. And the people that work in the tech boom, I mean, let's face it, they are well off and they work very hard and their jobs are very intense. So I can see why taking care of chickens or chickens and sheep, I think one person took care of some sheep
Yeah.
also. I can
Yeah.
see why that's a way to wind down. My husband and I talk about that also because he also stares at a computer screen all day and is on conference calls. And man, at the end of the day in the summer, it's still super light out at 5 or 5:15 when we sign off, and we both will just walk out into the back porch and we can hear the chickens and you can hear the birds and our neighbors are mowing and the breeze is blowing and it's just like like
Yep.
we're in the right place. This is where we belong. So I think it's sort of a
Exactly.
way for people who don't live in quite as zen of an environment to get a piece of that, if that makes any sense.
No, absolutely. And like I did read the comment section a little bit because I always find the comment section just so entertaining.
Oh man, I could not bring myself to read the comments on that
The
article.
best people show up. Oh, and like one of the guys said, like, this is painting like these people in a picture that is just a very small amount of people. Like, most people are just normal with their chickens. And it's like, that's, yeah, of course. It's like reality TV. You're going to find the most eccentric bunch of people because it's entertaining. So that's what they're doing in this article. But I also saw another person comment and say, oh my gosh, why are they letting chickens be around children?
What?
They shouldn't be letting those children touch the chickens. Like the CDC says not to cuddle chickens and blah, blah, blah. It's like, how about you just teach your kid to wash their hands and not lick the chickens and we'll all be okay.
Yeah,
Like, so they think like these chickens are just gonna like kill these children with their
I
germs.
do have a very strict washing hands rule when we're done with the chickens. And I also had a no kissing rule because, chickens have beaks. So they don't really have lips to like pucker up and kiss
Hmm.
back. And I told the kids, I'm like, you just can't kiss the chickens. I know that there are people that probably do kiss their chickens, but I did not want our farm animals to be blamed for why, like, our kids got sick. I don't know. I was always really,
Exactly. No, I'm
yeah.
right there with you.
I was always really worried about that because we do love our chickens and we do cuddle them when they let us. Our chickens aren't very cuddly, if I'm being totally honest, though. I don't know what I did wrong there.
Just some breeds are cuddlier than others. I think that's just how it is.
I think I need some tinier braids, and that'll definitely help with that. But one of the things in the article too is they talk about people that have chickens in diapers, and I mean, I cloth diapered Aurora. I did not Orion, but I did Aurora, and I could not bring myself to wash any more diapers. Never, never again. And my husband did clearly say that if any farm animals lived in the house, he would not live in the house anymore. And that would make me sad. So farm animals will have to live outside here.
Yeah, we have a couple in the house right now, freeloading, but they'll go outside eventually. So we just rotate them in occasionally.
I was gonna say when one's sick, that's different. We did make a plan. We'll have to talk about this on another podcast because we're getting pretty far into this one, so I don't want to totally change the subject. But after Artemis got sick and died, I was like, I have to have a place to put the really sick chickens that's closer because our barn was just too far away to go check on her as often as I needed to.
Mhm.
So we did make an agreement that sick chickens would go inside a dog crate in the laundry room so that we could reach them really easily and give them the care that they needed. So we do allow the farm animals in the house when they need to be for health reasons
That's good.
because that's the best you can do for your for your chickens and for all of your animals.
And I mean, sometimes you just need to be able to check on them often, and running out to the barn every 5 minutes would not be fun for anybody.
Yeah, no. I mean, and our barn's not really that far, but it's far enough and it's like a big open walk. So in really bad weather, like it's a terrible walk.
Ooh, yeah.
Like the wind's hitting you, you're getting pelted by snow or hail or rain. You're soaked by the time you get to the door. And then it's cold in there because our barn's not insulated yet.
Yeah, not a good time for anybody.
Oh, we have so much on our farm to-do list. It's crazy. I'm interested to see where we're at a year from now because we just celebrated a year from when we signed the paperwork on our house, like a couple weeks ago. And I look back and I feel like a totally different person, if that makes any sense.
Hmm. Oh, absolutely. No, I totally get that. We celebrated our 1 year at the beginning of January and was just like, holy crap, who are we? Like, just completely different. Your priorities just totally shift too.
Yeah, I did notice that. Like, you've got to get up early and take care of your chickens, so you're not like staying up quite as late as you used to, except on occasion. And yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, because they don't care if you're tired or sick or hungover. Like, they just want to be let out and fed.
yep, they do. They have to be cared for, and they do not care what shenanigans you were up to the night before.
Whether they were involved or not, they do not care.
Well, thanks for listening in on our third podcast of We Drink and We Farm Things.
You can find us on Instagram at Drink and Farm. We're also at drinkandfarm.com, and we have a Facebook fan page, facebook.com/drinkandfarm. So subscribe to all those so you can keep up on all the latest Drink and Farm news.
Yes, and if you haven't yet, be sure and subscribe. What are you waiting for? This is episode number 3. You should be subscribed by now, right?
I would think so. I mean, if you've made it to episode number 3 and you don't totally hate us, you should just subscribe already.
And be sure and rate us, in iTunes, the iTunes Store, Apple Store, Apple Podcasts. I don't know. They keep changing the name of all of that stuff. But yeah, rate us wherever you see us.
Leave us reviews and ask us questions, and we'll hopefully be able to answer those for you on a later podcast.
Yes, most definitely. And if you want more information on me, which is Bev, or some more information on Sam, you can find that on our website at drinkandfarm.com. Cheers.
Woohoo!